unlimited drama series.
The cologne hit me first, something expensive and foreign that definitely wasn't mine. Nicole slipped through our front door at 11:47 p.m., her heels clicking against the hardwood like a countdown timer. I sat in my recliner pretending to watch late-night television while my insurance adjuster brain cataloged every detail that didn't add up. "How was the showing?" I asked without turning around. "Fine," she said too quickly. "Mrs. Patterson is still thinking it over." "Mrs. Patterson." "Right. The same Mrs. Patterson whose house had been under contract for 3 weeks, according to the real estate website I'd checked an hour ago. But I let it slide, the way I'd been letting everything slide for the past 2 months. My name is Greg Mallory, and I've spent 15 years investigating insurance fraud for Northeastern Mutual. You learn to spot lies the way a sommelier identifies wine, by the subtle notes that don't belong. Tonight, my wife was practically drowning in them." Nicole kicked off her heels, and I caught sight of mud caked on the left one. Interesting, considering it hadn't rained in 4 days, and Mrs. Patterson's driveway was paved. She headed upstairs without her usual kiss goodnight, leaving behind that foreign cologne and a crumpled Uber receipt that had fallen from her purse. I picked up the receipt after she disappeared into our bedroom. The pickup location was downtown near the high-rise district. The timestamp read 11:32 p.m. 15 minutes ago. Not nearly enough time to drive from Mrs. Patterson's suburban ranch. My phone buzzed with a text from Stan, my office buddy. "Dude, saw Nicole at the Broken Mug tonight around 9? Thought you were working late?" I was working late. Until 10:30, finishing a particularly messy auto claim. Stan's text felt like a punch to the gut, but I kept my expression neutral as Nicole's footsteps creaked overhead. The smart move would have been to confront her immediately, demand explanations, wave the evidence around, have the big dramatic scene that would either clear the air or end our marriage. But 15 years of investigating fraud had taught me patience. Rush the case, miss the details. Miss the details, lose everything. I spent the next hour sitting in that recliner, listening to Nicole's shower run longer than usual, cataloging every suspicious moment from the past few months. The late-night emergency showings. The new gym membership she never seemed to use but somehow stayed incredibly fit. The way she'd started dressing up for grocery runs. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. "Check your email. A concerned neighbor." The email contained a single photograph, taken from a distance but clear enough. Nicole, pressed against the driver's side of a red Camaro in what looked like a parking garage, locked in a passionate kiss with a man I didn't recognize. The timestamp showed yesterday, 8:43 p.m., right when she'd claimed to be showing a house to the Hendersons. I stared at that photo for a long time, feeling something cold and calculating settle in my chest. This wasn't just an affair. This was systematic deception, complete with alibis and cover stories. The kind of fraud that required planning, coordination, and probably accomplices. The old Greg would have printed the photo, stormed upstairs, and demanded an explanation. But that Greg was an idiot who trusted people at face value. The new Greg, the one born in this recliner at 12:47 a.m., understood something important. If Nicole wanted to play games, she was about to discover she'd picked the wrong opponent. I was done being the insurance guy. Time to become the claim. The next morning, Nicole acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, kissed my cheek with lips that had been on another man 12 hours earlier, and cheerfully discussed our weekend plans like she wasn't living a double life. "I might have to show the Morrison place on Saturday," she said, buttering her toast. "Big commission if it goes through?" "Of course," I replied, sipping my coffee and mentally noting that the Morrison house had sold 3 days ago. "Whatever you need to do." She smiled, that perfect real estate agent smile she'd perfected over the years, and headed off to work in her BMW. I waited exactly 10 minutes, then called in sick to my own office. Time to do some investigating. My first stop was the Broken Mug, the downtown bar where Stan had spotted Nicole. The daytime bartender, a weathered guy named Mickey, remembered her immediately. Yeah, the blonde real estate lady. She's been coming in pretty regular the past couple months, always with the same guy. Dark hair, drives that red Camaro. They sit in the back corner booth, real cozy-like. "You know the guy's name?" Mickey shrugged. "Darren something. Manages that fancy fitness place in the mall. Tip's decent, but he's got that smarmy vibe, you know? Like, He's doing you a favor by existing. Darren. Now I had a name to go with the face in the photograph. I thanked Mickey and headed to Westfield Mall, where Peak Performance Fitness occupied a prime corner spot. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I spotted him immediately, about 6 feet tall, artificially tanned, with the kind of sculpted physique that screams steroids and insecurity. I watched him for 20 minutes, noting how he flirted with every attractive woman who walked through the door. This wasn't love. It was conquest. Nicole was just another trophy in his collection, which somehow made the betrayal sting even worse. My phone rang as I sat in the mall parking lot. Nicole's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, honey," she said, her voice honey-sweet. "I'm going to be late tonight. The Pattersons want to see 3 more houses." "No problem," I said. "I'll grab dinner with Stan." But I didn't call Stan. Instead, I drove to the high-rise district and found the parking garage from the photograph. It didn't take long to spot the red Camaro on the 3rd level, parked next to Nicole's BMW. They weren't even trying to be subtle. I positioned myself behind a concrete pillar and waited. At 7:23 p.m., they emerged from the elevator, Nicole's hair messed up and her lipstick gone. They kissed goodbye like teenagers, all hands and whispered promises. "Same time Thursday?" Darren asked, his voice carrying in the concrete space. "I'll tell Greg I have a late showing," Nicole replied. "He's so clueless. He'll believe anything." Clueless. That word hit harder than the affair itself. Not only was she cheating, she was laughing about how easy it was to fool me, how stupid I was, how pathetic. I waited until they drove off in separate directions, then made my way home. Nicole arrived an hour later, full of stories about the Pattersons and their picky house requirements. She even showed me photos on her phone, pictures she'd obviously taken weeks ago and saved for just such an occasion. "You're so thorough," I said, scrolling through the fake evidence. "It's one of the things I love about you." She beamed at the compliment, completely missing the sarcasm. That's when I realized something important. Nicole thought she was the smart one in this relationship. She'd built this elaborate deception and convinced herself I was too dumb to notice. She was about to learn the difference between dumb and patient. That night, after she fell asleep, I accessed our phone records online. 3 months of late-night calls to Darren's number. Text message timestamps that coincided perfectly with her work emergencies. Even a few charges to a motel out on Route 9 billed to her credit card. I screenshot everything, uploaded it to a secure cloud account, and started building my case file. If Nicole wanted to treat our marriage like a fraud investigation, I'd give her the full insurance adjuster experience. She wanted fireworks? I'd give her the 4th of July. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Tuesday morning, Nicole was rushing around the house, gathering her things for another busy day of showings. In her haste, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she ran upstairs to fix her makeup. I had maybe 3 minutes before she came back down. 3 minutes to confirm what I already knew and set my first trap. Her phone was password protected, but I'd watched her enter it dozens of times. Our anniversary date. She'd always been sentimental about the wrong things. The text thread with Darren was right there in her recent messages, and it was worse than I'd imagined. "Can't wait for tonight. Greg's working late again. My place this time. I have a surprise for you." "What kind of surprise?" "Let's just say you should wear that black dress I like." And nothing else underneath. My hands shook as I scrolled through weeks of messages. Explicit photos, detailed plans for their encounters, complaints about me, about our marriage, about how she was finally ready to make a change. But the worst message was from 3 days ago. "Darren, I think I'm..." I'm ready to ask for the divorce. I just need to figure out how to get the house and the good car. Maybe if I can make Greg look bad somehow. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning to destroy me. I heard Nicole's footsteps on the stairs and quickly forwarded the most damaging messages to my own phone, then deleted the evidence from her sent folder. She walked into the kitchen just as I was pouring myself another cup of coffee. "Have you seen my phone?" she asked, looking around frantically. "Right there on the counter," I said, pointing to where she'd left it. She grabbed it and kissed my cheek. "You're the best. I don't know what I'd do without you." "Hopefully you'll never have to find out," I replied. She left for work, and I called my office to take another sick day. Then I called my lawyer, Tom Brennan, who'd handled our house purchase 5 years earlier. "Greg, good to hear from you. What can I do for you?" "Tom, I need some advice. Hypothetically, if someone was planning to divorce their spouse and try to take them for everything they're worth, what kind of evidence would protect the innocent party?" There was a pause. "This wouldn't be hypothetical, would it?" "Let's say it's not. Then you need documentation. Financial records, communication evidence, proof of adultery if applicable. The more evidence you have of deception or fraud, the better your position in any settlement. And if the cheating spouse was planning to make false accusations to improve their position, even more reason to document everything. Greg, are you in immediate danger?" "No, but I think I'm about to be. I'll call you back when I have more information." I spent the rest of the day gathering evidence. Bank statements showing charges to restaurants and hotels I'd never been to. Credit card bills for lingerie I'd never seen Nicole wear. Even a receipt for a weekend getaway to Cape Cod that she'd told me was a work conference. By evening, I had enough evidence to bury her in any divorce proceeding. But I wasn't ready for divorce yet. I was ready for something much more satisfying. Nicole came home at her usual time, full of stories about her day. She'd even brought Chinese takeout from our favorite place, playing the role of loving wife to perfection. "You seem happy," I observed as we ate. "Just had a good day, I guess. Closed the Henderson deal, finally." The Henderson deal had closed a week ago. I'd checked. But I smiled and congratulated her, playing my own role just as well. After dinner, she excused herself to take a shower. I waited until I heard the water running, then used her laptop to access her email. She'd used the same password as her phone. Really, for someone planning an elaborate deception, she was remarkably careless about security. Her email was a gold mine. Messages to her sister about finally getting rid of Greg. Conversations with Darren about apartments they were looking at together. Even a consultation request to a divorce attorney, asking about strategies for maximizing settlement from a controlling husband. Controlling. That was rich, coming from someone who'd been orchestrating my entire emotional destruction. But the most interesting email was from her best friend Brianna, sent just that afternoon. "Are you sure about this plan? Making Greg look unstable seems risky. What if he finds out?" Nicole's response: "He won't. Greg's too trusting and too stupid. By the time I'm done, everyone will think he's an abusive husband who drove me away. I'll get the house, the cars, and probably alimony." I stared at that email for a long time, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. Nicole was planning to destroy my reputation, my relationships, my entire life. She wanted to paint me as abusive, isolate me from friends and family, and take everything I'd worked for. The shower was still running upstairs. I forwarded the emails to my secure account, cleared the browser history, and closed the laptop. When Nicole came downstairs in her robe, I was back on the couch, watching television like nothing had happened. "What are you watching?" she asked, curling up next to me. "Just some crime show," I said. "Guy thought he was smarter than everyone else. Turns out he wasn't." She laughed and snuggled closer. "Those shows are so unrealistic. Real criminals would never be that stupid." "You'd be surprised," I said, wrapping my arm around her. "Sometimes the smartest people make the dumbest mistakes. Insurance always pays out, unless you torch your own house." The confrontation with my friends came sooner than I expected. Thursday night, I was supposed to meet my usual group at Murphy's Pub for our weekly poker game. But when I arrived, the atmosphere was ice cold. Stan, who'd been texting me supportive messages all week, couldn't meet my eyes. Dave, my neighbor and weekend golf partner, was openly hostile. Even Tom Bradley, who'd been my friend since college, seemed uncomfortable. "We need to talk, Greg," Dave said before I could even sit down. "Sure. What's on your mind?" Nicole called my wife yesterday. She was crying, said you've been different lately. Angry, controlling. My blood went cold, but I kept my voice steady. "Different how?" She said you've been checking her phone, following her around, accusing her of things. Tom leaned forward, his expression serious. She's scared, man. She thinks you might be having some kind of breakdown. I looked around the table at these men I'd considered my closest friends. Men I'd been best man for, helped move, lent money to over the years. They were all looking at me like I was a stranger. And you believed her? I said quietly. She had bruises, Greg. Dave's voice was hard. On her wrists. Said you grabbed her during an argument. Bruises. Jesus Christ. She was really going through with it. The elaborate frame job, complete with physical evidence. I thought about Darren's hands on her in that parking garage. How rough they'd been. How easy it was.
I was drunk! I didn't know what I was doing!
Drunk? I have everything on video.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Would be to claim those marks came from me. I've never laid a hand on Nicole, I said. That's what they all say, Stan muttered. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Stan, who'd been sending me concerned texts about Nicole's behavior. Stan, who'd seen her at the bar with another man and thought he was helping me. Now he was looking at me like I was a monster. You guys have known me for years, I said, standing up slowly. You really think I'm capable of hurting my wife? People change, Tom said. No stress, work problems, marital issues. They can make a man do things he never thought he would. What work problems? What marital issues? According to Nicole, everything's been perfect. They exchanged glances, and I realized this conversation had been planned. They'd discussed me, analyzed me, decided I was guilty before I even walked in the door. Maybe you should talk to someone, Dave suggested. Get some help. Maybe you should mind your own damn business. The words came out harsher than I intended, but I was past caring. These men had known me for decades, and they'd thrown it all away based on one tearful phone call from a woman they barely knew. That's exactly the kind of reaction Nicole was talking about, Stan said. The anger issues. I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. Anger issues, right. So if I defend myself, I'm angry and unstable. If I don't defend myself, I'm guilty. Perfect trap. I threw a 20 on the table and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard Tom call my name, but I didn't turn around. These friendships were over, poisoned by Nicole's lies, just as she'd planned. In the parking lot, I sat in my car for a long time, hands shaking with rage and betrayal. She'd done this perfectly. Isolated me from my support system, made me look like the aggressor, positioned herself as the victim. By the time she filed for divorce, everyone would be on her side. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw your wife and her boyfriend at the Marriott downtown tonight. Room 412. Thought you should know. A friend. Another anonymous tip, probably from the same concerned neighbor who'd sent me the first photo. I should have been grateful for the information, but right now I just felt exhausted. Nicole was probably in that hotel room right now, laughing with Darren about how easily she'd turned my friends against me. I drove home to our empty house and poured myself 3 fingers of whiskey. Then I sat down at my computer and started typing. The email went to every person in Nicole's contact list. Friends, family, coworkers, clients. The subject line read, "The truth about Nicole Mallory." I attached screenshots of her text messages with Darren, photos of them together in the parking garage, bank statements showing her hotel charges, email conversations about her divorce strategy, and plans to frame me as abusive. I wrote a detailed explanation of her affair, her lies, and her systematic campaign to destroy my reputation. I included the timeline of events, the evidence I'd gathered, and a simple statement. I have never hurt my wife, but she is certainly hurting me. My finger hovered over the send button for a long time. Once I pressed it, there would be no going back. Nicole's reputation would be destroyed, her career probably ruined, her family relationships damaged beyond repair. But she'd done the same thing to me first. She'd turned my friends against me, poisoned them with lies, made me into a monster in their eyes. She wanted to play dirty? Fine. Let's see how she liked being on the receiving end. I pressed send. Within an hour, my phone started ringing. Nicole's sister, her coworkers, even her mother. Some were angry, some were shocked, some were asking if it was all true. I let them all go to voicemail. At 11:47 p.m., exactly 1 week after I'd first smelled that foreign cologne, Nicole burst through our front door. Her face was streaked with tears, her perfect makeup ruined, her hands shaking with rage. "How could you?" she screamed. "How could you send those emails? You've destroyed everything." I looked up from my whiskey, studying her face. Even now, even caught red-handed, she was playing the victim, the wounded wife betrayed by her cruel husband. "I destroyed everything?" I asked calmly. "That's interesting, because I'm not the one who's been screwing around for 3 months. That's not... You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You wanted to leave me, take everything I own, and destroy my reputation in the process. You just didn't expect me to fight back." She stared at me, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear, not the crocodile tears she'd been feeding my friends. "Greg, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, fix this." "No," I said, standing up. "We can't. Because you didn't just cheat on me, Nicole. You tried to destroy me. You turned my friends against me, planned to take everything I've worked for, and would have let everyone think I was an abusive husband for the rest of my life. I never said you were abusive." I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd made of my conversation with Dave and the others. Her voice came through clearly, describing my controlling behavior and anger issues. Her face went white. "You recorded them?" "I record everything now. Learned that from the best fraud investigators in the business. Amazing what people will admit when they think no one's listening." She sank onto the couch, finally understanding that her perfect plan had fallen apart. "What do you want?" "I want you out of my house. I want a divorce. And I want you to tell everyone the truth about what you did." "And if I don't?" I smiled, and it felt cold as winter. Then I released the rest of the evidence. The hotel receipts, the explicit text messages, the photos I took of you and Darren together. All of it goes public, Nicole. Your real estate license, your family relationships, your reputation, all gone. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "You're not the same person I married." "No," I agreed. "I'm not. The person you married was trusting and naive. He believed people were basically good, that marriage meant something, that his friends would stand by him. You killed that person, Nicole. This is who's left. If they wanted a villain, I'd give them a blockbuster." 3 days later, Nicole moved out. She tried to take the BMW, but I'd already had it repossessed. Turns out the loan was in my name, and I'd simply stopped making payments. She tried to clean out our joint bank account, but I'd frozen it the morning after our confrontation. She even tried to take the furniture, but my lawyer had already filed an injunction. She was learning the difference between planning a crime and executing it. But I wasn't done, not even close. Friday night, I walked into the Broken Mug during happy hour. The place was packed with the usual crowd. Young professionals, real estate agents, fitness trainers, and social media influencers. Nicole's entire social circle was there, including Brianna, who'd been helping orchestrate my destruction. I dressed carefully for the occasion. My best suit, freshly shaved, looking every inch the successful insurance executive I actually was. I wanted to look respectable, trustworthy, sane. The kind of man who didn't deserve what had been done to him. Nicole was sitting in the back corner booth, the same one where she'd been meeting Darren for months. But tonight she was alone, nursing a wine and looking like her world had ended, which, to be fair, it had. I walked straight to her table and sat down across from her. "Hello, Nicole." She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. "What are you doing here?" "Having a drink. This is a public place." "Greg, please, haven't you done enough?" I signaled the bartender and ordered a whiskey. "Done enough? I haven't even started." That's when Darren walked in, looking around nervously. He spotted Nicole immediately and started toward our table, his chest puffed out like he was ready for a fight. There a problem here?" he asked, standing over me with his arms crossed. I looked up at him calmly. "No problem at all. Just having a conversation with my wife." "Soon-to-be ex-wife," he corrected, "and she doesn't want to talk to you." "Funny thing about that," I said, pulling out my phone. "I've been doing some research on you, Darren. Peak Performance Fitness, right? Nice business. Shame about the financial problems." His face went pale. "What are you talking about?" The lawsuit from your previous gym, the unpaid taxes, the fact that you're 3 months behind on rent and about to lose your lease. I smiled. Amazing what public records can tell you about a person. You're lying. Am I? Because I also found out about the sexual harassment complaints from your female employees. 3 different women, all filed with the State Labor Board. That's public record, too. Darren's hands clenched into fists, but he didn't move. We were in a crowded bar, surrounded by witnesses. Even he wasn't stupid enough to start a fight here. You want to know the really interesting part? I continued. I called your landlord yesterday. Turns out he's been looking for a reason to evict you. Something about complaints from other tenants about noise and inappropriate behavior. What did you do? I didn't have to do anything. I just made sure he was aware of the public records. The complaints, the financial problems, he made his own decision. Nicole was staring at me in horror. Greg, stop. Stop what? I haven't done anything illegal. I've just shared publicly available information with interested parties. Darren was shaking with rage, but there was fear in his eyes too. He was starting to understand that he'd picked the wrong man's wife to seduce. You son of a bitch, he whispered. Careful, I said. There are a lot of people watching right now. Wouldn't want to give them the wrong impression about your character. He looked around the bar and realized I was right. Half the room was watching our conversation, phones out, probably recording. Any aggressive move he made would be captured and shared within minutes. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is. I stood up, straightening my suit jacket. Your gym is closing next week. Your reputation is destroyed, and everyone in this room knows exactly what kind of man you are. I turned to Nicole, who was crying silently into her wine. As for you, the divorce papers will be filed Monday morning. My lawyer suggests you get your own representation. Greg, please. You wanted everyone to think I was controlling and abusive, I said, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. But all I ever did was love you and trust you. You're the one who chose to destroy our marriage for a man who can't even pay his bills. I walked toward the door, but stopped when I reached Brianna's table. She'd been Nicole's co-conspirator, the one who'd helped spread lies about my anger issues and controlling behavior. Brianna, I said pleasantly, how's the influencer business going? She looked up nervously. Fine. That's good. I'd hate for your followers to find out about your role in Nicole's affair. You know how you helped her lie to her husband, provided alibis, even took photos of her with her boyfriend. I smiled. But I'm sure your sponsors would understand. Brands love working with people who help destroy marriages. Her face went white. You wouldn't. I don't need to. The screenshots of your text messages with Nicole are already making the rounds. Amazing how fast things spread on social media these days. I left her sitting there and walked out of the bar. Behind me, I could hear the buzz of conversations starting up, phones being pulled out, the social media machine grinding into action. By morning, everyone in town would know the real story, not Nicole's version, where I was the controlling, abusive husband, the true version, where she was the cheating wife who'd tried to destroy an innocent man. I sat in my car outside the bar, watching through the windows as Nicole's world continued to collapse. Darren had stormed out, probably to deal with the crisis at his gym. Brianna was frantically typing on her phone, trying to do damage control. Nicole was still sitting alone in that corner booth, finally understanding the full scope of what I'd done. My phone buzzed with a text from Stan. Greg, I owe you an apology. Just heard the whole story. I'm sorry we didn't believe you. Then another from Dave. Man, I feel like an idiot. Nicole really had us fooled. Are you okay? And another from Tom. Drinks tomorrow? My treat. I owe you a big apology. I deleted all 3 messages without responding. They'd had their chance to stand by me, and they'd chosen to believe a liar instead. Some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. But it didn't matter anymore. I didn't need their friendship or their approval. I'd handled this situation myself, using nothing but patience, intelligence, and the skills I'd learned investigating insurance fraud. Nicole had wanted to play games with a professional. She'd discovered the difference between amateur hour and the real thing. I drove home to my empty house, poured myself a drink, and sat down to plan my new life. The divorce would be finalized within 60 days. The house was mine, the cars were mine, and thanks to the prenup Nicole had insisted on signing, she'd get nothing but her personal belongings. Darren would be bankrupt within a month, His business destroyed and his reputation in ruins. Brianna would lose her sponsorship deals and probably have to find a real job. And Nicole would have to start over with nothing. Her real estate career finished and her social circle destroyed. I'd won. Completely, utterly, definitively. But the victory felt hollow somehow. I'd spent 15 years building a life with someone who'd never really loved me, surrounded by friends who'd never really known me. All of it had been an illusion, as fake as the alibis Nicole had constructed for her affair. The old Greg would have been devastated by that realization. But the old Greg was gone, killed by betrayal and replaced by someone harder, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous. Someone who understood that trust was a luxury he could no longer afford. Someone who would never be fooled again. Revenge isn't about getting even. It's about making sure they never forget and never recover. No refunds, sweetheart.